All right, so we're tackling this embrace your power idea. And wow, you sent a ton of stuff about meditation.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, isn't it?
It is. We've got the Dalai Lama himself,
Oh, yes, his book, Stages of Meditation.
which is like rooted in a ninth century text.
That's exactly amazing lineage.
Plus, we've got the Heap of Jewels Sutra, the King of Meditative Stabilization Sutra.
Don't forget the Descent into Lanka Sutra. Quite the collection.
So not just like dipping our toes in the meditation pool
Yeah,
here.
this is a deep dive.
And it seems you want the real how-to, the benefits.
Absolutely, the practical side and philosophy.
Maybe even some mind-blowing stuff along the way, huh?
That's where the power lies, right? Understanding not just the how, but the why.
Okay, so before we get to doing anything,
Right.
the Dalai Lama's book and others, they start by defining the very thing we're trying to tame.
The mind itself.
So what is this mind we're talking about?
Well, Buddhist thought makes a distinction. Things that exist all the time, permanently, versus things that exist only sometimes, occasionally.
Gotcha.
And here's the thing. Omniscience, ultimate knowledge,
Yeah,
that's considered occasional.
so it can be developed. Like
Well,
it's not a given.
Exactly. It can be developed. It's not just there all the time for everyone.
Our minds aren't just fixed. There's potential to actually GROW.
Precisely. One of your sources, it compares consciousness to a seed.
Okay.
It has that innate awareness within it,
Uh-huh.
but ignorance, it's like a shell blocking its full potential.
So even reaching like omniscience, that depends on certain things happening.
Yeah.
Causes, conditions, right?
Yes. Like there's a recipe for it.
Okay, ignorance is the shell. Got it.
Right.
Now how do we crack it?
That's where the power of meditation comes in, provides the tools.
All right, so we're not talking like meditation just in the woo-woo sense.
No, not at all. These texts emphasize its systematic mental training.
Oh, interesting.
It's like education for your inner world.
learning to code, but for your feelings.
Precisely.
And in stages of meditation, there are different approaches, right?
Yes. Analytical and placement meditation.
Okay, break those down for me.
Analytical, it's like critical thinking. You examine things carefully.
Gotcha.
Placement, that's all about cultivating really focused attention.
So one's about examining, one's about focusing.
Exactly. Both essential.
Okay, I get it. We're analyzing thoughts, training attention. But honestly, this all sounds like work.
Chuckles. It can be challenging, yes.
Why bother? What's the benefit of all this mental heavy lifting?
The Dalai Lama says, and I quote, "The purpose of meditation is to make our lives worthwhile."
So it's not about becoming some monk detached from the world.
Not at all.
It's about actually making our daily lives better.
That's the goal, yes.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
These texts, they highlight a bunch of benefits. Less suffering, obviously.
Yeah, who doesn't want that?
Right. Better relationships, and even the possibility of reaching a lasting happiness.
Hang on. There's a hierarchy of suffering, like levels to this game.
The text describe 3 types.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, just everyday suffering, like physical pain.
We all know that one.
Right. Then there's suffering that comes with change. Even good things don't last.
True.
And lastly, pervasive suffering, the kind that stems from our own minds.
So even happiness can be a type of suffering. That's a bit of a mind bender.
It is, and it's this understanding of suffering in all its forms
Yeah.
that leads to genuine compassion.
Okay, help me connect the dots here.
Realizing how universal suffering is, that makes us want to help.
Not just ourselves, but everyone.
Precisely.
So embrace your power isn't just about me finding peace. It's about understanding others' struggles too.
You're getting it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense actually.
And this is where equanimity comes in, a key part of that inner power.
Okay, equanimity. What exactly does that mean?
Cultivating a balanced mind, free from clinging to the people we like, and pushing away those we dislike.
So it's about seeing everyone equally,
Exactly.
not getting caught up in all the drama.
Yeah. Yes. Imagine how much calmer social media would be if everyone practiced that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's this equanimity that lets genuine loving kindness flourish.
Loving kindness. Isn't that a little
Well,
cheesy?
not at all. One of the texts uses a great analogy. It's like watering the soil of your mind
Okay.
so that the seed of compassion can grow.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture.
Good.
First, we cultivate that balanced mind. Then we nurture genuine care for others.
That's it.
But can compassion really make a difference in the world? Seems a little idealistic.
Compassion is powerful, but without wisdom.
Yeah.
It's like driving with good intentions, but no map.
Oh, been there. Ended up lost and hungry. So how do we get this wisdom upgrade?
Understanding the 2 types of wisdom.
Hit me.
First, how things appear to us, conventional truth.
Okay.
Second, their ultimate nature, which brings us to emptiness.
Wait, emptiness isn't just an empty stomach. There's more to it.
Much more. It's a deep concept.
Okay.
One we'll explore as we go, but for now, let's shift gears a bit to how these two types of wisdom can be put into action.
Turning knowledge into real power. I like it.
Exactly. That's the key.
So we've got compassion, we've got wisdom.
Yes.
But how do we actually use them?
That's where calm abiding and special insight come in.
Ooh, dynamic duo. Tell me more.
Calm abiding, think of it as training your attention muscle.
Okay.
Deep stillness and focus.
Got it.
Special insight, that's like a laser focus on emptiness.
The ultimate nature of reality, right?
Yeah.
So one's stillness, the other's deep seeing. Do they work together?
They do. The Heap of Jewels Sutra, it emphasizes that it's this combination that helps us uproot negative habits for good.
Not just mask them well.
Precisely.
This is starting to feel less like meditation and more like, I don't know, a mental superpower montage.
Chuckles. It is empowering, isn't it?
It is. But true mental mastery, it needs balance, right?
Absolutely. The Descent into Lanka Sutra is very clear on this.
No.
Compassion without wisdom, it can lead to burnout. And wisdom without action, that's just head knowledge.
So we got to be kind, but savvy too.
Exactly.
Don't want to be their doormat bodhisattva.
Right. The texts offer a clear path. Start with basic ethical behavior.
Okay.
Practice generosity, patience, alongside your meditation.
So it all works together.
Yes.
All right, we've got a solid framework here. Ethical living, focused training, understanding emptiness. This embrace your power thing, it's more than just a phrase.
No, it's not.
It's a real path to transformation.
It is.
But how do we actually apply all of this in our daily lives? That seems like the real challenge.
That's a great question.
And one I'm sure we'll unpack further in this session.
We will. Stay tuned, folks.
We'll be right back with more insights and practical tips on how to embrace your power.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
You know, as we've been talking about all these profound Buddhist concepts, I keep thinking about how relevant they are to something we all deal with.
What's that?
Relationships.
Oh, for sure. Relationships can bring so much joy, but also a lot of frustration and suffering, honestly.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of equanimity we were discussing, it becomes really powerful.
Right, not getting swept up in the emotional roller coaster.
Yes.
Easier said than done, though, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely is. But one of the texts you picked, Kamalashila's Stages of Meditation,
Okay.
he offers a really interesting perspective.
I'm listening.
He points out how our relationships are constantly in flux, changing all the time.
Okay.
Someone who's your best friend today could be your adversary tomorrow.
Wow. Okay, that's a little unsettling, but I guess it's true.
And vice versa.
Yeah, I've definitely had friendships that have,
Evolved?
let's say evolved over time.
That's impermanence in action.
And recognizing this impermanence,
Yes.
it can actually help us cultivate equanimity.
It can.
Instead of clinging to those we love
Right.
and pushing away those who annoy us,
Yes.
we aim for a more balanced perspective.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you're a mountain, and your relationships are like the weather pattern swirling around you.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes stormy, but the mountain remains steady, unmoved.
I like that image. So we're the mountain, not the changing weather.
Precisely.
But does that mean we don't care about others?
No, not at all.
Does equanimity equal emotional detachment?
It's actually the opposite. It allows us to cultivate a deeper, more genuine compassion.
Because we're not so caught up in our own reactions.
Exactly.
We can see others suffering more clearly, offer support.
Yes, without getting tangled in our own attachments, our aversions.
Okay, I can see that. But what about those really challenging relationships?
Yeah, the ones that push our buttons.
Exactly. How does equanimity help us there?
That's where it's even more crucial. Remember, the Dalai Lama said, the purpose of meditation is to make our lives worthwhile.
Right.
And part of making our lives worthwhile,
Yeah.
it's navigating those difficult situations skillfully.
So those relationships, they become opportunities for growth.
Exactly. The texts even suggest that our enemies can be our greatest teachers.
Oh, wow.
They highlight those areas where we need to work on ourselves.
Where we need to cultivate more patience.
And understand.
That's a tough pill to swallow, but I get it.
It is.
It's about taking responsibility for our own reactions instead of blaming others.
Exactly.
So not passive acceptance, but using those experiences to become stronger.
Yes, that inner strength, that's what truly empowers us.
This is really hitting home for me.
Good.
I can see how powerful these practices are.
They are.
Not just for personal peace,
Mm-hmm.
but for creating a more harmonious world around us.
That's the goal.
But how do we actually cultivate this equanimity?
Yeah, is it just sitting on a cushion meditating? Meditation is valuable,
Right.
but the texts emphasize it's about integrating these principles into every part of our lives.
So it's about mindfulness, moment to moment.
Exactly. Paying attention to our thoughts, our words, our actions.
Not just on the cushion, but in all our interactions.
Precisely. And one of the most powerful ways to cultivate this equanimity
Yeah.
is through loving kindness.
Okay, loving kindness, that sounds a little, I don't know, touchy-feely.
It's more powerful than you might think. Kamalashila describes it as watering the soil of our minds,
Oh, right. We talked about that before.
so that the seed of compassion can grow and it can really transform our relationships.
Okay, so how do we water that soil? What does that look like?
It can take many forms. A simple practice is to start by generating loving kindness towards ourselves.
Okay.
We often criticize ourselves so harshly.
Oh, tell me about it.
It creates so much inner turmoil.
My inner critic can be brutal.
We all have that inner critic to some degree,
True.
but we can choose to cultivate a more loving, accepting attitude.
So instead of beating ourselves up, we offer ourselves kindness and understanding.
Exactly.
And as we cultivate more self-compassion,
Yes.
it becomes easier to extend that to others.
Precisely. It's like filling up our own cup first.
So we have something to offer.
Yes, and as we practice loving kindness, we start to see the interconnectedness of all beings more clearly.
Yeah.
We realize we're all in this together, sharing the same joys and sorrows.
And that can really shift our perspective, can it?
Absolutely.
It helps us move beyond me versus them to a more expansive view of the world.
Yes, exactly. It's all interconnected.
This is so inspiring.
God.
I'm starting to feel like we can actually create a more loving and compassionate world,
We can.
but it takes work.
It does.
It requires each of us to do that inner work.
Yes, cultivating those qualities of equanimity, wisdom, and compassion.
Within ourselves.
Exactly, as Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world.
That's powerful.
These Buddhist texts offer a path for doing just that.
This has been such an empowering conversation.
Good, I'm glad.
I'm feeling really motivated to put these practices into action. But before we wrap up this part of Embrace Your Power,
Okay.
there's one more concept I'm really curious about.
Oh, what's that?
It keeps popping up in these texts.
Yes.
Emptiness.
Yes.
I'm still not sure I understand it.
Emptiness, one of the most profound, often misunderstood concepts in Buddhist philosophy.
Yeah, it sounds a bit nihilistic.
It does.
Like if everything is empty,
Right.
then what's the point?
That's a common misconception.
Is it?
Emptiness doesn't mean that nothing exists.
Okay.
It's about understanding that things don't have a fixed, independent existence.
So things are real,
Yes.
but they're real in a different way than we usually think.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
A table appears solid and substantial,
Right.
but if we examine it closely,
Yeah.
it's made up of atoms,
Okay.
which are mostly empty space.
Whoa. Okay, my mind is blown.
So even something as solid as a table is mostly emptiness.
Wow.
And the same is true for everything else.
Including us.
Including us, we tend to cling to a sense of a solid self.
Right.
But if we examine that closely,
It's impermanent and ever-changing too.
yes.
Okay, so emptiness is about seeing through that illusion of solidity. Understanding that everything is interconnected and always changing.
You're getting it.
It's like seeing the space between the waves.
Beautiful analogy.
And realizing this emptiness, that can be liberating.
It can. It really can.
How so?
Because it frees us from clinging.
To a fixed sense of self.
Exactly, and to our rigid views of the world.
It allows us to be more open, flexible.
And compassionate.
That makes sense if we're not so attached to things being a certain way.
Yeah.
We can adapt to change more skillfully.
Exactly, and we can see others suffering more clearly.
And respond with more compassion.
Yes.
This is profound stuff.
It is.
But I have to admit, it's a little overwhelming.
I understand.
How do we even begin to grasp this concept?
Right.
Is it something you have to be a monk on a mountaintop to understand?
No, not at all. It's something we can explore and experience in our everyday lives
Okay.
by paying attention to the constantly changing nature of experience.
Okay.
Notice how your thoughts, emotions, sensations,
Wow.
they're always arising and passing away.
That's true.
Nothing stays fixed.
Now, my mind is definitely a whirlwind of activity.
And as you become more aware of this impermanence,
Yeah.
you start to glimpse the emptiness that underlies all experience.
So even amidst the chaos, there's a sense of spaciousness.
Yes, and that spaciousness is where we find true freedom and peace.
This is fascinating. I'm starting to feel a real shift in my perspective.
That's wonderful.
A sense of expansiveness.
That's great to hear.
But it seems like a lifelong journey, right?
It is.
This isn't something you just get overnight.
You're right. It's a gradual process.
So patience and persistence are key.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep meditating, keep questioning.
I will.
The more you delve into these teachings, the more the wisdom will reveal itself.
This Embrace Your Power session has been so eye-opening.
I'm
I
glad.
feel like I'm seeing the world in a whole new light.
That's wonderful. And remember, this is just the beginning.
There's so much more to explore.
There is.
Well, lucky for us, we still have more to cover in this session.
Indeed, we do. We've talked about training our minds,
Yeah.
cultivating compassion,
Yeah.
understanding emptiness. But where does it all lead? What's the ultimate aim of this inner work?
That's a great question.
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our Embrace Your Power journey.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back to uncover even more about how to tap into your inner power. Welcome back to Embrace Your Power.
You know, one thing that's really stuck with me through all this,
Oh, yeah. What's that?
this idea of interconnectedness.
It is a core concept, for sure.
Like, our actions, they have an impact
I mean,
that goes way beyond ourselves.
It's fundamental to Buddhist thought.
Recognizing that interconnectedness, it changes how we see the world, our place in it.
Completely. And one of the texts, the Heap of Jewels Sutra,
Yeah.
it emphasizes this beautifully. It explains how generosity, patience, ethical conduct,
Acts are key.
they're essential practices for purifying our minds.
And for creating a more harmonious world.
That's it, exactly. So it's not just about being a good person in some abstract way.
Right.
It's about understanding, like, the consequences of our actions.
Yes. And acting in ways that benefit everyone.
Not just ourselves.
Exactly. Aligning our actions with that understanding of interconnectedness.
So what we do to others,
Yeah.
we do to ourselves, ultimately.
That's powerful, but let's be real.
Yeah,
It's not always easy to be perfectly ethical all the time.
of course not. We're human.
We make mistakes. How do these teachings deal with that?
Well, one of the most helpful things is their emphasis on forgiveness
Okay.
and self-compassion.
So instead of beating ourselves up when we mess up,
Right.
we offer ourselves kindness, understanding.
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection.
I needed to hear that.
It's about learning and growing.
It's so easy to fall into that perfectionism trap.
It is. It's exhausting.
It really is.
And often it just leads to more suffering.
Yeah.
These texts, they encourage a gentle approach,
Okay.
open mind, recognizing we're all works in progress.
That takes the pressure off. Right. It's like giving ourselves permission to be human.
And as we cultivate that self-compassion,
Yes.
it naturally extends outward, right?
It does.
We become more compassionate towards others, too.
Because we can relate to their struggles, their mistakes.
We understand that everyone's on their own journey.
Exactly. And it all comes back to interconnectedness.
Seeing ourselves as part of something larger,
Yes.
it makes it natural to feel empathy, compassion.
It does for everyone.
Wow, this has been incredible. I'm seeing the world in a whole new light.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Before we wrap up, embrace your power, though.
Hmm.
One last question.
Okay, shoot.
We've talked about training our minds, cultivating compassion, understanding emptiness. But where does it all laid?
The ultimate goal. That's a big one.
It is
According to these Buddhist teachings, the goal is enlightenment, or Buddhahood.
Buddhahood. Wow, that sounds a little intimidating.
It can.
Is that even achievable for, regular people like us?
The texts say the potential is within every being. It's not about becoming superhuman.
Okay.
It's about realizing our full potential for wisdom and compassion.
So it is about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yes, but also something more.
More.
Enlightenment goes deeper than that. It's about transcending suffering
Okay.
and realizing the true nature of reality.
All right. Now you're going to have to explain that one. Realize the true nature of reality.
It means seeing the world clearly without those distortions created by our ego, our limited perceptions.
Okay.
Waking up from that dream of separateness.
Yeah.
Realizing our fundamental interconnectedness with everything.
That is a lot to take in, but it also sounds incredibly freeing.
It is incredibly liberating.
So how do we even start down that path?
These texts, they offer a gradual awakening to this truth.
Through.
Meditation, ethical conduct, cultivating wisdom and compassion, it's a journey, not a destination.
And every step we take, it brings us closer to realizing our potential
Yes.
for peace, happiness, love.
That's the beautiful truth at the heart of it all.
What an inspiring way to end our power session. I feel so grateful for all this wisdom.
Me too. It's been wonderful sharing it.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights from this deep dive.
Into the power of meditation and Buddhist philosophy.
Remember, we all have the capacity to embrace our inner power.
To create a more positive world.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep shining your light.